Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. It is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan of hotels. Guess who was in the building? None less than Brian Hicks, President and CEO of HSMAI. How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Bruce. It's great to be here.
Thank you for coming. Listen, today we're going to cover all things revenue management. We have a lot of experience over here. We've been doing this forever. I was just telling him, we remember when we were working for 6 continents. That's how long long ago we were with IHG. So my number one question, of course, my first question is, how did you get started in this business?
Wow. I am probably one of the few people that knew when I was very young, probably 16, that I wanted to work in hotels. And went to hotel school and graduated, started working in hotels, and I've never done anything else in my life.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing.
I think it was the joy of travel. I walked into a couple of very grand dame hotels, and I said, this would be a cool place to work, and coming into beautiful hotels like this on a regular basis. So it was love at first sight.
Wow. What made you get started in revenue management?
Revenue management, like many people, I really kind of fell into it. So I was this goes back quite a ways. I was at the Ritz-Carlton in Buckhead in Atlanta. And this was when Marriott had just purchased about half of the company. And they installed Marsha and the revenue management system. And I was at the flagship property, and I was actually working in accounting. I was doing some time in accounting. And they knew I was kind of a numbers guy, and I had worked in reservations, and they were like, you can do this. Like, you're the one that's going to have, pick you out of a crowd to kind of say, you're going to be that individual that's going to, put in our reservation and revenue management system. So that was my first kind of foray into it. And then kind of went back into operations, joined IHG, and a couple years after working more operations at IHG, somebody tapped me to go back into kind of reservations and revenue management. And that was early 2000s. And that's been there pretty much ever since.
It's always the numbers guy. I have like 15 years of hotel accounting experience. When I was IHG, I was a property accountant back when they used to manage properties.
Right. Yep.
And they always put the numbers guys in revenue management. I swear, and it's completely different. It has nothing to do with accounting.
It doesn't. Which is actually why I loved it, because I really didn't care for accounting.
Yeah. Accounting was a little boring for me, but I did it for 15 years. So, what is the biggest changes you've seen then compared to now in revenue management?
Yeah, so many changes. I mean, the discipline is just morphed over the last few years into big changes in skill sets. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen. The skill sets of 15 years ago was, you better know Excel inside and out, right?
Yeah.
And you better be able to, use your formulas and take data and analyze it yourself. Today, most of that's done for you. A lot of those systems are making the calculations. They're making even recommendations. But I think that's also, and we'll probably get into it, but I think that's one of the risks as well.
Exactly.
So we'll get to that in a second. But I think, the biggest change has been obviously technology. I think everybody sees that as the number one change. And then the skill sets of the individuals that are doing it well have had to modify and change over time and learn new skills.
Correct. I tell people about AI all the time. Like, AI is a great guide.
Correct.
But it can't take you through the jungle. You really have to know how to get through the jungle. You can't just depend on AI. I talked about a new upgrade that I came up with. It was an upsell for a child-proof room. So they don't have to, bring all the childproof stuff. The room is already there. You look for all your reservations that say with child and see, find out how old the child is, and then offer an upgrade for an additional $20, $30 a night. They took that idea and they tried to find it, and they were like, that doesn't exist. I sent it through ChatGPT and it doesn't exist. I'm like, yeah, because I created it. And I didn't blog about it. You're not going to find it anywhere. So AI is great at taking information, but it doesn't actually create.
Correct. Yeah.
So what are some of the issues that you've seen with AI in revenue management that are great improvements and some of the advantage or disadvantages of AI in the revenue management.
Well, look, revenue managers are inherently skeptical of systems. Yeah. Right? It's almost a taught behavior early on in your career in revenue management, which I think is actually not a horrible thing as we move into AI, because I think those individuals that will question the data are the ones that are actually going to make better informed decisions. Validating the data is critical as well. It's definitely going to be making better recommendations and crunching a lot more data than an individual would be able to do on their own. One of the risks I see, and this has been a risk actually, I think from day one, is the systems don't know all of the information.
Correct.
I'll use the hotel around the corner. We're in San Antonio today. We just had a downpour. I mean, a massive rainstorm. Flash flood warnings are being sent to everybody's phone. It's a little bit of chaos. Well, I saw in the hotel, they were out there with the wet and dry vac, right? Going through, trying to clean up some water stains and spills. I mean, that could shut down a ballroom. That could shut down 50 rooms in that hotel, right?
That's true.
AI is not going to know that, right? The systems aren't going to know that. They're not going to be able to take that into consideration. When you're in San Antonio, we're just past, the Spurs game a couple of nights ago. The demand in the city is crazy. You shut down 50 rooms, that's going to impact everything else in this market, right?
Absolutely.
And AI is not going to pick up on that, those types of things. Staffing changes, a hotel loses a big account, or, a big crew, rooms go somewhere else. Like that type of information is so critical to revenue management at the end of the day, and making those decisions that if the systems are never going to pick that up. So that's a big risk that I think is something we really need to ensure that revenue managers are questioning that data, but more importantly, adding value to the existing data to make better decisions.
What are some of the tools that you use to keep track of your notes besides Excel? Because these systems are coming out, left and right, and they don't really seem to be adding tracking features to help you. Okay, 3 years ago, all right, this is why this rate was low. There was a hurricane. That hurricane is not coming this year. Right. So we don't need this. we can increase the rate now. So what are some of the things that you use to help with that data?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, the most of the systems that are around today, and they're developing, of course, but they're using historical data, right? So they're looking back and they're just looking at the performance, not necessarily the drivers that had influenced that performance, like a hurricane or, something, positive or negative.
Our government shutdown.
A government shutdown. Yeah, there you go. Yep, that's been a great one, right? Losing a lot of, people not getting on planes.
There you go.
Places, right, et cetera. So I think it's a great point. I think hopefully with AI, it will be able to add that additional layer of insights to say, hey, why was performance better or worse last year during this same time? Is this going to repeat? Yes or no? That's where I think the craft of revenue management is going to stay very solid. And that's where I think those individuals that understand the discipline have to understand the basics from end to end. Otherwise, you are going to miss out on some of those understandings. So that's, I think, another danger is letting AI do everything. Right?
Yes. And a lot of owners, they don't see the other side of the coin because they never did revenue management before. Right. Even in the marketing, combining revenue management marketing, I'm one of very few people that have that skill set. And the issue that I was having was that they were trying to, when it came to the marketing side of things, they were trying to they weren't going off the rate when it came to the demand.
Right.
So, these guys that just set up ad campaigns and they just keep it running. They don't adjust the income levels.
Right.
So the HHI. So the household income will be let's say it's a luxury hotel, $500 a night. The household income will be great during peak season at, 150,000.
Yep.
But during slow season, they drop the rate all the way down to 300, 250.
Right.
You're not going to need 150,000 for that. Someone that makes 75,000 can come. So it's just those little things that if you don't have a revenue management background, you're not going to find.
You're not going to understand those changes, right? And also what's the long-term impact of making those adjustments over time as well, right? So if somebody does have, going to a new hotel, beautiful hotel like this, $150 a night introduction rate, they may be able to afford it this time, and then next time they come in it's $450. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute, and is that a dissatisfier? Are you going to alienate some demand because of that? I think those are big questions that revenue management and marketing need to really ask together. I mean, that's a big part of our conference this week is about bringing those disciplines together to have those conversations and have a unified strategy.
Now, what are the top 3 issues that you had with revenue management, and what are the things that you did to solve them?
Yeah. Look, I think the number one issue is, and has been for a while, is talent. I think as the discipline has moved forward, the need for, let's call them entry-level data analysis, insights, individuals, analysts are becoming fewer and fewer, right? So, the systems can do a lot more of that number crunching and that analysis, which then I think is preventing people from seeing a longer career path in revenue management and feeling like, ooh, that's a big barrier to jump to get to, having a portfolio of hotels or, a big box property where you're the revenue manager. So I think we need to figure out a way from a talent standpoint. And honestly, I think that's where AI can be an enabler.
Sure, of course.
To help individuals, like if that's a path that they want to go, but there's not that next level. I mean, the ability to understand and use AI to help kind of, hone your craft, I think is really powerful. And that's also where I would say for HSMAI, the CRME is something that is really, really beneficial for somebody to kind of say, I understand the basics now. Like I can get through this. I understand. I am certified revenue manager. I understand the complexity of this craft and prepare themselves for that next level of revenue manager. So I think entry-level positions are really critical to growth. And so I think that's something we need to figure out. On the same time, continuous education is really, really critical because things are moving so fast.
Yes.
Markets are moving fast. Customer expectations are moving fast. The data changes, technology changes is just at lightning speed. So, continuing to stay alert as to, what are the tools and what is the competitive advantage that I can have for my property versus others so that I stay competitive. Sure. And again, I think that's where, HSMAI allows that conversation to happen. Thursday we have our revenue optimization roundtables. We're bringing together those revenue leaders from across all brands, management companies, et cetera, to just have some discussions around what's working, what's not working. And just being honest in a, kind of a safe environment to be able to have that conversation. So I think that's another kind of the last one there really is, it's just
that
really
makes
critical.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Like as far as choosing revenue managers as from a talent perspective, what departments have your more favorable revenue managers come from? Has it come from sales? Has it come from desk, accounting, housekeeping?
Yeah.
What departments should they look at first?
That's an interesting question because honestly, I think you and I are very similar in that sense of like we fell into it a little bit and then you really enjoyed it, right? It was like, I really understand this. I'm good at it. I can make good decisions at it. And it just kind of clicks, doesn't it? So yeah. I think it's about the individual and not necessarily the departments. And I think trying to find those individuals makes it even harder, right? You and I both said, we both worked in finance and in accounting, but I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
And then you move into revenue management, you're like, this is where I belong. Like this is my home. This is where I'm going to make a difference. So I think I had some opportunities to speak to university students that were graduating with hospitality and hotel degrees recently. And I think that's where you really need to start and see what they think they want to go into, because that's not necessarily where they're going to end up, right? And kind of assessing what their what are your interests? Like, is analysis? Like, I just think data analysis is probably the number one factor to look at. If you enjoy doing this, if you enjoy looking at that data and kind of making some decisions about it, then it's probably a good place to start.
It's so funny you say that, because my first controller, my first boss, he had an engineering degree and he was a controller. Right. So yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Now, when it comes to like the numbers, like I feel like when people reach, they call it God level, the numbers just started talking to them. They don't have to analyze. Okay, they could just spot it. The numbers, especially if you master your market, you can see it from a mile away.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the skills that we need some of the things we need to learn to get to that level, to God level in revenue management?
The honest to God truth is time.
Yeah.
It really is just time. I don't think there's any silver bullet. Maybe that is where AI could step in to help give some case scenarios of, here's something that might happen. How would you react to that? What would that be? It's almost like you can recall in your career when you kind of hit that level of just that understanding, and you kind of go, wow, okay, I got it now. Like it just kind of triggers something. And I think that the bottom line is making sure that you're exercising that part of your mind as you're kind of going through it, and making sure that you continue to flex that muscle. And then I think it'll just come to you.
Nice. Now, the sales side of things is a little different for most revenue managers. I remember I was in a meeting not too long ago, and transient is doing $300 a night, and sales like, we got this great group, $100. We can sell at the hotel. I'm like, well, we're already projected, 80-90% transient. Why would we take $100? And I think the honest answer was, because I need my commission.
Right. I think that's
I need to hit my numbers. Like, what is the best? Yeah, there you go. Like, what is the best way to handle those scenarios when we run into them?
That is, I come back to some of the discussions that we're having at the roundtables, and a lot of the presentations that we're having this week at Commercial Strategy Conference are centered exactly around that. And it is that unified strategy. I think, when it comes to benefits and rewards of sales, revenue, marketing, it has to be one team. It's got to be a single motivating factor to kind of get everybody on the same page to say, in that scenario, well, you know what? Great. If we're going to be able to take transient at double the rate over that time period, that's great. At the same time, you need to kind of push back from a group standpoint and say, if we turn this group away, we're probably going to be turning away other business that's not going to come our way now. And if that's part of our strategy, that's fine, but it needs to be agreed upon, because I think a revenue manager could look back and go, you know what, there are periods where we could have used some group business to fill in some of the days where we didn't have strong demand and $300 transient rates. So how do you balance that out over time to ensure that, if you have group demand, you start turning it away, it's going to go away, right? People are going to take you, they're not going to go back to you and what have you. So that unified strategy, I think, is just absolutely critical. And the hotels and the groups that have that are going to be the ones that are going to be succeeding.
What is the biggest difference you've seen when it comes to revenue management, regular hotel business versus extended stay?
Look, I love extended stay. It is such a great model, and it is, it's almost a revenue manager's dream, right? It's, when you add the complexity of length of stay based pricing and, demand rules, et cetera, for extended stay, I found it fascinating. And being able to look at, 30 plus day business versus 7 day versus the transient element, right?
Yeah.
And then it also then comes down to that profitability. I don't think it's a secret. Most of the extended stay properties have a little higher return than some of the transient properties from a profitability standpoint. So, that says a lot right there in terms of, less housekeeping, you have more, longer length of stay, You're going to be generating more profit because of the cost of sale, et cetera. Cost of distribution, goes down a little bit with some of those extended stay reservations, et cetera. So I think profitability is probably the biggest one, and the complexity of the revenue management team, because a lot of the systems are still falling behind a little bit and keeping up with those length of stay based rules. A lot of them have it, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to really grow that. And some of the systems are still constrained by having set tiers of, it's 3, 7, 10, 30 plus, whatever it might be in terms of those tiers. And that's got to be completely dynamic. Like that has to be completely adjusted to the individual reservation request. And again, we're getting there, but that's a big opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I seen was that when I started doing extended stay revenue management, I actually had to increase the rate a lot higher because we were losing money.
Yeah.
Because that model wasn't designed for, one-nighters. It wasn't really designed for that business transient that they're there one night, they fly on a Sunday, they leave on a Monday. So, it was killing us. So we definitely had to increase the rate by 20-30%. Just for the one-nighters, for it to be profitable.
Yeah. You got to get that balance right. I mean, if you're not turning away short length of stay, then you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
In the extended stay world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any other tips and tricks or advice that you give the audience before you head out? And
sure. Look, I think the three things that I've really enjoyed at HSMAI over the last year and a half that I've been at the helm is seeing the growth of the association. And we're going to have record attendance at our commercial strategy conference this week. We've got 1,000 registered, which is just a phenomenal number. And I think it just speaks to the fact that people are looking for the things that we're providing. So we're providing education. The education, certifications it's still a very key component of your personal development and growing in this industry. So whether it's revenue management, sales, digital marketing, we have those certifications to help you move your career along. Networking, like you can't do it all yourself. And sometimes if you stay in your bubble of where you're working, you're really lacking getting new ideas and fresh ideas. So an event like this brings across those networking opportunities for people. Look, there's also a lot of people that come just because it's, they haven't seen these people in a year and this is their time to get together, and it's a lot of fun. So there's a lot of fun had with it as well. And then our roundtables, which we're having this week. So we're kicking off this morning. Those education series are just so critical to people in terms of understanding what the next new big thing is. Our partners that come in are so cutting edge these days. It's really, really great to see some of the new stuff that's coming out. So nice. I think, just focusing on your career and your personal growth, a lot of times it's in these kind of where conditions are a little kind of uncertain, a lot of companies will pull back a little bit on training and development because it's something that's easy to kind of cut for the time being, and maybe they'll put it back later. We can fill that void. We can totally fill that void. And, I'm looking forward to catching up with a lot of old friends and colleagues that have been with various companies and various positions, and the one continuity is HSMAI. So it's kind of fun to bring everybody back together. So
nice. Now, speaking of career paths, what made you decide to say, okay, I'm going to take over this position? I'm like, this guy is crazy. You had a nice cushy job at the corporate office and your workload triples. And that's an understatement.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. Look, this is a community that I really enjoy being around, and if I can, play a role at this point in my career of helping to drive the industry forward and help develop the next generation of talent coming in, this is something I'm excited to do for the few years and see the growth of the industry. And then, I'm also at a point where I've got being able to spend a lot more time with my kids, and that means the world to me. And they're 9 and 12; they're going to be gone soon. So who knows what after that?
That is, listen, just like that.
Yeah,
I remember holding my daughter, and now she's 20. And now I have a son that's 4, and he was just a baby like 2 days ago. Yep. I'm like, what is going on?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible. So Man, listen, thank you for being on the show. How can everybody get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me at hsmai.org for sure. We'd love to have you sign up as a member. We have so many different opportunities. We're a couple months away from asking for volunteers, whether it be through some of our advisory boards, our main board, working groups, etc. So please look us up there. We'd love to have you as a member.
And thank you for joining us for another episode. This is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels, signing out. Hey, what's going on? It's Bruce Jordan, the hotel revenue expert. I just want to take a quick second to thank you for watching this video. If you could just do us a big favor and just subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more videos like this, more information, great information about hotels. I'm also the author of the Hotel Revenue Bible. You can get that book on hotelrevenuebible.com. And we are here to answer all your questions. So if you have any questions, just shoot us a quick text at 321-321-2002. That's 321-321-2002. And you can book a revenue call. Go to hotelrevenuecall.com and we can answer any and all your questions. Just make an appointment with me. You'll do one-on-one with me. You'll be able to do one-on-one with me, and we could go ahead and get all your questions answered and see if you have any revenue issues that needs to be resolved. Talk to you soon. Thank you again. Hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you.